You ever stop to think about how technology isn't just changing what we do, but what we're actually capable of doing? I mean, we're gaining all these new digital powers, which is great, but are we losing something kind of fundamental along the way? Okay, so to really get into this, I've got a story for you. It sounds pretty funny at first, but the more you think about it, the more it kind of makes you go,
So get this. This is a real quote somebody posted on Reddit. An intern gets handed a project, and with it, a physical book full of all the equations they're going to need. And their genuine, totally serious question was, how am I supposed to search this thing? There's no keyboard shortcut. It's just this incredible moment where you see the logic of the digital world just completely crash into the physical one.
And this little story, it taps into a fear I think a lot of us have. Are the skills that we used to think of as totally basic, the ones that don't need a plug or a Wi-Fi signal, are they just fading away? Are we leaning so hard on our digital crutches that our own built-in abilities are starting to just waste away? And it's not just about knowing how to use the index in a book. People are seeing this kind of stuff everywhere. Think about it. Doing simple math in your head, something that used to be totally normal, now we just pull out our phones. Or what about navigating a city just by looking at street signs and landmarks without a GPS talking in your ear? It almost feels like a superpower now. Even these subtle language skills, like getting a feel for where a word came from just by how it's built, that's being replaced by a quick Google search. Okay, so it's easy to think the story is simple. Technology comes in, old skills go out. But hold on, it's actually way more complicated than that. To really get what's happening to our skills, we have to look at what technology, and especially AI, is even good at. And I'm telling you, the answer is going to feel completely backward. It all comes down to something called Moravec's paradox. And wow, does it mess with your idea of what's hard and what's easy? See, for an AI, the stuff that we humans find really hard, like high-level logic, acing an IQ test, playing incredibly complex games like chess or Go, that's the easy stuff for them. But the things a one-year-old can do without even thinking, like just walking across a room, grabbing a toy, or recognizing a face, for a machine, that is unbelievably astronomically difficult. So why? Why is it like this? Well, the answer is all about our own evolution. The skills on the left, things like abstract reasoning and complex math, they're actually brand new for the human brain, evolutionarily speaking. We haven't had millions of years to perfect them, so the roles are more clear-cut, easier to write down as code. But the skills on the right, walking, seeing, balancing, using our hands, that's the result of hundreds of millions of years of fine-tuning. It's so deep in our hardware that we don't even know how we do it. So how are we supposed to teach a robot? Okay, so if robots are clumsy and struggle with physical stuff, does that mean all the craftspeople and builders in the world are totally safe? Well, not exactly. The future isn't a simple choice between a human doing a job and a robot doing a job. Instead, we're seeing this amazing middle ground pop up, the augmented human. And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You've got workers here using augmented reality headsets, and it's projecting the digital blueprints right onto the thing they're building. The computer handles all the insane spatial math, but the human provides that irreplaceable dexterity, that delicate touch, and the on-the-fly problem-solving you need when you're working with real materials. It's the best of both worlds, a perfect partnership. So let's look at the two ends of the spectrum here. On one side, you have pure machine creation. This project, called Digital Grotesque, is just mind-bending. It's a structure so complex it was designed entirely by an algorithm and then 3D printed. This is not human craftsmanship. This is the raw, almost alien kind of complexity that a machine can cook up when you just let it go. But then, on the other side of the spectrum, you've got this. The TechKnit project is just as complex, but it gets there in a totally different way. Instead of brute force robotic precision, this is built by a human craftsman who understands how materials want to behave, how foam tubes will bend and weave together. It's a type of complexity that a robot would have no idea how to handle, because it relies on that intuitive physical feel for the material itself. Okay, so we've seen the paradox in the physical world, but what about the world of ideas, of knowledge? When we say a large language model knows that the capital of France is Paris, what does that even mean? Is it just a superpowered Control F, finding and repeating phrases it's seen? Or is there something deeper going on inside that black box? To really get at this, we need this idea of tacit knowledge. The classic example is riding a bike. You know how to do it, right? But could you write a perfect instruction manual that would let someone just read it and then ride a bike flawlessly? No way. It's a know-how that you feel. It's not a list of rules you can write down. And the huge question is, can an AI actually develop a digital version of that?
So, at a super high level, this is kind of how an LLM like GPT works. It takes a bunch of words, it processes them through all these complex layers, and its one and only goal is to predict the most likely next word. That's it. But in the process of doing that across, basically the entire internet, something really weird seems to happen. It starts to build what looks a lot like an internal model of how the world works.
So here's the billion-dollar question. Is the AI just memorizing that the phrase, the Eiffel Tower is in Paris, appears a lot, like in the bottom half of this diagram? Or is it actually building what researchers call a causal common factor, like you see on the top? That would be a single unified concept of the Eiffel Tower's location in its digital brain that gets triggered no matter how you ask the question.
And what's so cool is that researchers can actually test this. They can literally go inside the AI's network and perform a little surgery. They can find that one little spot that represents the Eiffel Tower's location and digitally move it to, say, Berlin. And guess what? If the AI has that deeper understanding, then every question you ask it, what city has the Eiffel Tower? Where should I go to see the Eiffel Tower? Will now say Berlin. This is some of the strongest evidence yet that these AIs are building real, if strange, tacit knowledge. Okay, so let's bring this whole thing full circle. We started out with this fear that our old school analog skills are just vanishing. We've seen that AI is kind of clumsy with physical things, but is getting surprisingly smart with abstract knowledge. So, after all that, what does this mean for the value of the things that we humans can do? And this comment from that very same Reddit thread where we started just absolutely hits the nail on the head. When a skill is no longer an economic necessity, when you don't have to do it to survive or make things for everybody, it doesn't just disappear, it transforms. It becomes a sign of craft, of passion, of humanity. It becomes a luxury. And we've seen this pattern play out over and over again, right? 100 years ago, most people wore handmade clothes because they had to. Today, a handmade suit is a luxury. Nobody needs hand-built furniture anymore, but we value it more than ever. Manual transmission cars, acoustic guitars. Technology has made them obsolete for the masses, but that's exactly why they're so prized by enthusiasts now. So what about that skill of using a hand-indexed book? Could that become its own kind of luxury too? A sign of a certain kind of careful, focused mind? And that leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. If all these old world skills, these analog abilities, become luxury hobbies for the people who can afford them, what does that mean for the rest of us? As AI gets better and better at the routine knowledge work, what new set of skills becomes the absolute baseline, the new necessity for everyone else? What do you think those are going to be?